This presentation covers two important concepts within the gINT rules capability, gINT. First one is the before required fields check event. gINT rules, like any programming macro language, it has lots of moving parts to it, and one of those very important moving parts are events. You can put your code in at various events, like saving in a table, starting new data after leaving a table. We have quite a few events, and the before required field event is a new one to gINT version v8i SS2, Select Series 2. And it's very useful for very specific situations. And in the process of covering that, we're going to also look at unit conversions that you can do with gINT rules. All right, let's go into the program. Now, here we have a table with duplicate fields, seemingly duplicate. We have two total depths, two elevations, one in feet, one in meters. So we'll talk about unit conversion later, but basically I'm going to delete the meters here and save, and the gINT rule will recalculate, no problem, and show you how that's done in a bit. But the main thing I want to cover now is this before required field event. Now we should be able to, ideally, put in meters and calculate feet. And no, we can't do that. That is required for total depth. This is a required field. It's our system field, hole depth. You can't remove it. You can't take off the required property. So we're out of luck. What you'd have to do is put in some dummy number and then calculate over it. You'd have to tell the program if there's this dummy number in the total depth field, ignore it and calculate from the meters. Now I'm going to undo the changes here. The reason it didn't work is we put in the code to execute in the save event. gINT rules procedure on save. These are different events. Well, by the time gINT goes to save, it's too late. It has already checked for required fields. The steps we go through before we actually call your code on save is, number one, we compress the grid. If you've got some blank rows, the program will remove them, and it will check for required data, so that your code always knows that any fields required, there's data there. You don't have to also check in your code. So that doesn't work in this case. So that's why we created the gINT rules procedure before required fields check. I'm just going to move where my code is being executed. It's being executed now on this event. And now I can delete that and save, and it's calculated. And I put all the code in the same place. We could have put the other field calculations, in the save event, because none of them are required. It would work just fine. But why bother? Might as well put it all in one procedure instead of breaking it up. Now when I save, it recalculates. And another case here, and we've seen this with a number of our clients. They have offices in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. where they use meters, but they want to be able to use one database. So this comes up quite a bit. The depth field is generally required. This event is necessary for this to work properly. So I can delete that, input meters, and when I save, the code then calculates that. So that's all there is to the gINT rules procedure before required fields check event. It's just another place before the save event is called. This event is called before checking for required fields. So if you have that condition where there are required fields, and they're generally system fields, obviously, if the required fields were up to you, then under your control, then you probably would just uncheck them. as required. Except in the case of depth, you probably always want that required. Then you would switch to this new event. Now in terms of the unit conversions, you can look at the code for this, of course, but let's take a quick look. It's pretty straightforward. We set up a methodology which you're free to change. What you do to add a new unit conversion, you add a new conversion type here. This is under the Common Procedures module. Just add a new one here. Give it whatever name you want. We've come up with a certain style. G is global, scope, it's an integer, conversion type, and it's a degree Fahrenheit, degree centigrade. It goes in both directions. And you just insert it anywhere above this one. This must be last, as this says. And then down here in conversions init, you add your conversion factor. And in all cases, just one number. It's a factor. You multiply from one to another. Now, we also show you how to do it for things like Fahrenheit centigrade, where it's more than a number. There's also an offset. And so there are, everything here is factor, 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 and then here we have offset. So you can add as many units as conversions as you want. The thing that actually does the conversion is this procedure here. Convert English metric pairs. You pass in the conversion type and as many pairs of fields as you wish. And what you're passing in here is the position in the grid. And I'm going to take you to where you use it here. So here we have the point save. You define your field names, you figure out the positions using our init fields function, which we've included here. In that procedure, you pass in the field name and it returns the field position in the grid. Of course, the user is free to move that position, so it could change every time. So you want to run this all the time. And then we're calling this convert English metric pair. You tell it the conversion type, and by the way, it will, when you hit that left paren, it will show you a list. That's why it's in the enumeration. It will enumerate it for you. Comma, and there we go. And then as many pairs as you want. English metric, English metric, English metric. And assumes the first field, the first position is English, second position is metric. You're free to change this all around. So, and then for the depth save, same situation, except we had to break it up into multiple pieces here, because one is one conversion type, feet, meters, another one is PCF, megagrams per meter cubed, etc. All right, and this is also written up in the gINT rules manual, which is under help manuals, and that's right there. And this particular coding example, GR021, you'll find under help, internet links, downloads, and gINT rule samples, as well as many, many other gINT rule samples. All right. Thank you very much.